What happens when the truth of a brutal murder is whispered on every street corner, yet remains officially unconfirmed, shrouded by the very public that seeks to expose it? Across the annals of crime history, a chilling paradox persists. Investigative bodies often possess an almost certain conviction of a perpetrator's identity, yet find themselves paralyzed, unable to deliver a final verdict due to a critical absence of concrete evidence. The killers featured in collections of unsolved mysteries often share a macabre commonality. They strike with cold precision, commit heinous acts, and then vanish into the shadows, their identities forever eluding official confirmation. There are cases that have lingered for a century, the identities of their perpetrators buried deep behind an impenetrable veil of secrecy, with the most peculiar and baffling truths only surfacing long after all has been said and done, when the finality of events has rendered justice impossible. Such is the enduring enigma of the Hall Mills murder, a case so deeply etched into the American consciousness that even a century later, its shadows continue to lengthen, refusing to recede into history's forgotten archives. Though largely forgotten by younger generations, the Hall Mills murder of 1922 remains one of the most contentious and perplexing cold cases in American history. For more than 2 decades following its initial unraveling, this sordid tale captured the relentless attention of the American public, a gruesome spectacle played out in newspaper headlines and whispered conversations across the nation. It was a scandal that exposed the underbelly of small-town piety, illicit passion, and the insidious influence of wealth and power. The setting for this unfolding tragedy was a seemingly idyllic, peaceful stretch of countryside in New Jersey. On a crisp autumn morning, September 14, 1922, as the first rays of dawn stretched across the dewy fields, a young couple, typically enjoying a leisurely stroll, stumbled upon a sight that would forever scar their memories and shatter the tranquility of the bucolic landscape. There, nestled beneath a crabapple tree, they discovered the horrifically intertwined bodies of a man and a woman, both clearly deceased, bearing the unmistakable marks of a violent death by gunfire. The scene was one of grim, almost theatrical intimacy. The unfortunate man's hand rested gently upon the woman's chest, while her leg lay draped across his thigh, a macabre tableau suggesting a final, desperate embrace, or perhaps a staged post-mortem arrangement. Both victims had been shot with .32 caliber bullets. The man suffered a single, fatal shot, while the woman had been struck 3 times. But perhaps most strikingly, scattered around the bodies, almost like fallen leaves in the autumn breeze, lay a collection of love letters, tenderly exchanged between the two, now serving as silent, damning testaments to their forbidden affair. Initial police investigations swiftly identified the victims. The man was Reverend Edward Hall, a prominent and respected pastor from New Brunswick, a man whose spiritual calling was now overshadowed by the nature of his death. The woman was Eleanor Mills, a vibrant and talented choir singer at his church. The illicit nature of their relationship was an open secret in their community. They had been involved in an affair for some time, despite both being married to other people. Reverend Hall's wife was Frances Hall, an older woman of considerable wealth and social standing. Many whispered that Reverend Hall had married her primarily for financial security and social elevation, a common, if unspoken arrangement in those times. Eleanor Mills' husband was James Mills, a quiet elementary school teacher, who, like Frances Hall, was an unwitting and eventual victim of his spouse's infidelity. The affair between Reverend Hall and Eleanor Mills was widely known, discussed in hushed tones, but acknowledged by nearly everyone in their circles. When the gruesome discovery of their bodies spread like wildfire through the community, thousands of curious, morbidly fascinated onlookers descended upon the crime scene, transforming the solemn sight into a chaotic spectacle. This influx of curiosity seekers proved disastrous for the nascent investigation. In their eagerness to glimpse the macabre details, these onlookers unwittingly trampled crucial evidence, disturbing the ground and contaminating what precious little forensic material might have existed. The scattered love letters, rather than being preserved as vital clues, were openly passed around, read aloud, and even taken as morbid souvenirs by members of the crowd, further obliterating any chance of their proper forensic analysis. The raw intimacy of their words, now broadcast to a gawking public, added another layer of voyeuristic tragedy to the already sensational case. The bizarre nature of the victim's injuries further deepened the mystery. Eleanor Mills, beyond the 3 fatal bullet wounds to her head, had suffered unspeakable post-mortem mutilation. Her throat was savagely cut, and a subsequent autopsy revealed that her larynx had been brutally removed. This detail, chillingly precise and indicative of extreme malice, hinted at a motive far beyond simple passion. Reverend Hall, though spared such grotesque disfigurement, presented his own peculiar puzzle. While he still wore his glasses and his distinctive Panama hat remained on his head, his watch had vanished, an unexplained detail that seemed out of place in such a frenzied crime scene. Was it a robbery, or a deliberate act by the killer to remove a potential identifier, or simply a random act of a scavenger? Almost immediately, official suspicion, fueled by community gossip and the undeniable motive, converged on the theory of a jealousy-driven crime. Fingers pointed squarely at Frances Hall, the Reverend's wealthy and publicly humiliated wife, and her 2 brothers. The Hall family, a formidable and influential clan, represented one of the most prominent and affluent lineages in the New Brunswick area. Their status, however, did little to shield them from the intense scrutiny of the public eye and, eventually, the legal system. The case simmered for years, a festering wound in the community's conscience. It wasn't until November 1926, 4 years after the murders, that Frances Hall herself was finally brought to trial, igniting a media firestorm that dwarfed the initial sensationalism. Newspapers, both local and national, eagerly poured oil on the flames. Esteemed publications such as the New York Times and the burgeoning New York Daily Mirror dedicated vast swaths of their pages to the proceedings, offering exhaustive, often sensationalized coverage. They christened the unfortunate victims with catchy, if morbid, monikers. Eleanor Mills became the beautiful Coral Girl, her tragedy framed for public consumption. A key witness, a woman who lived near the crime scene and raised pigs, was cruelly dubbed the Pig Woman by the press, her testimony dissected and dramatized for maximum public engagement. The trial itself stretched over 30 days, a theatrical spectacle that captivated the nation. The prosecution presented a compelling narrative. Frances Hall and her brothers possessed not only a clear motive, revenge for betrayal and public humiliation, but also the means and opportunity to commit the murders. Yet, despite the pervasive public conviction and the compelling circumstantial evidence, the one crucial element missing was irrefutable, concrete proof. The chaotic scene, contaminated by thousands of curious onlookers in the immediate aftermath of the discovery, had effectively obliterated any forensic evidence that might have definitively linked the suspects to the crime. Witnesses' conflicting accounts, swayed by public opinion and the passage of time, further complicated matters. Ultimately, after a protracted and highly publicized legal battle, Frances Hall and her brothers were acquitted. The jury, facing a dearth of tangible evidence, simply could not return a guilty verdict. The acquittal, while legally sound given the state of the evidence, did little to quell the public's deep-seated suspicion. In a remarkable turn, Francis Hall, feeling unjustly accused and publicly vilified, subsequently filed a lawsuit against the New York Daily Mirror for defamation, a bold move that underscored the power and reach of the press in shaping public perception. Though the Hall-Mills case technically remains unsolved in the eyes of the law, the passage of a century has done little to alter the prevailing historical consensus. Most historians and investigative scholars continue to believe that Frances Hall and her brothers were indeed responsible for the brutal slayings. The enduring mystery, the sense of a truth known but unproven, sealed the case's place in American folklore. It serves as a stark reminder of how a community's uncontrolled curiosity can irrevocably derail justice, leaving behind a legacy of unanswered questions and lingering suspicion. The Hall-Mills murders, with their blend of forbidden romance, gruesome violence, and societal intrigue, even served as a partial inspiration for F. Scott Fitzgerald's timeless American classic, The Great Gatsby, a testament to its profound impact on the nation's collective imagination. The names Reverend Hall and Eleanor Mills, though their lives were tragically cut short, thus live on, etched into the fabric of American crime lore, a haunting echo of a crime where justice was elusive, swallowed